Hello everyone. I wanted to do a video on leveling up, and this is for men and women. Um, I see a lot of articles and reports on women going after men when when the relationship falls apart. And it's not necessarily a relationship where a man and woman was married. I'm right now specifically speaking about men and women that are not married and they're in these relationships, whether it's a long-term relationship, short-term, or a spiritual, not a spiritual, excuse me, a sexual entanglement, where they decide they're going to get involved and mutually, you know, get involved like that. And then the woman winds up pregnant. And then now you have this child. Once the child is born, you know, a lot of things seem to maybe not take place. But I want to talk to the men and women today because I think it's important that men and women start to level up. If you're going to have a relationship with someone and a child is born out of that relationship, I think it's important for the man to do his due diligence and get that DNA test at the time, after the birth, to get it right away to establish paternity. So there is never a question or doubt, about the paternity, unless you're not sure. But if you're sure about it, okay. But still, even if you're sure that the child is yours, the newborn is yours, to still get a DNA test and to establish paternity immediately. Then go to court and ask for joint custody. Ask for joint custody so that you can be a part of your child's life. But if you choose not to do those things, then now you have problems facing future issues or current issues because now the woman is asking for child support, especially if you fall out and fall apart or you're no longer together. Now she's asking for child support. She's asking that you pay for everything, including taking care of her. Because a lot of times women do get involved with men, or men and women get involved together. Let me say that, get involved together. And they don't think about the consequences of being involved in a relationship and not being married. And so then there's these financial issues that come up, like getting nails done, hair done, paying the rent, wanting the man to buy a house for them and pay their rent or their mortgage, or buy a car for them for transportation and pay all the bills, and then place the child in private school. And so all of that is all great if the man agrees to it, women, ladies. But if he doesn't agree to it, now you're angry and you feel that he's responsible for all of those things because he made a baby with you. But as a woman, women have to be more responsible and accountable for themselves and take care of themselves and self-preservation. And leveling up is one of the ways of doing it. If you knew before you got with that man that you wasn't making that much money, then you're still responsible for leveling up for yourself and taking care of yourself to do better. If you were paying your rent, where were you living? Rent, mortgage? Did you have roommates? Were you homeless? What were you doing before you met that man and got involved with that man? You still have to pay rent somewhere. So now that this man has money and he has these assets and he's worth a certain dollar amount, you feel that he's responsible for paying your rent, your bills, because you have this baby with this man. But again, how were you managing before you wind up pregnant by this man? How were you managing? Were you paying your rent? Were you paying your bills? What were you doing prior to having a baby by this man? And what are your intentions? We have to be honest with ourselves, ladies, of what your intentions are when you get involved with a man. We have to be, we need to be, um, we have to be honest about it. We need to be honest about what our intentions are when we get involved with these men and we wind up having children out of wedlock. Because I look at things and I believe that I don't think that a man is responsible for every single thing, just because there's a baby involved. I think the man is responsible for paying child support, which is usually ordered by the court, unless you have a verbal agreement or a written agreement that you wrote down together, you agreed upon, and maybe even you went and got it notarized. But the man isn't responsible for, and let me just kind of list some things. He's really not responsible for a child that's not his. That's why it's important to establish paternity. Men, from the very beginning, establish that paternity so that you're not taking care of a child you're not responsible for. And then later on, you find out that child's not yours. And if you sign that birth certificate by law, you are saying that's your child. Most states in a court of law, they won't let you out of that. So it's very important up front to establish paternity to make sure you are the father if there's a question about it. And if there's any doubt in your mind, don't sign any birth certificate until you establish paternity by getting a DNA test. And some of it, they swab the mouth, they do a blood test, however the hospitals do it, but make sure that it's a legitimate test. The other thing is that, about what women expect from men, because a lot of times women, and not all women, but some women expect a man to pay for a child's private school, the tuition. Well, some people have different values than other people. Some people don't think that private school is that important. They don't place a high value on it. And private school is really a privilege and a luxury. So if the man chooses to pay the tuition, that's fine. But if he doesn't, unless it's court ordered, he doesn't have to do that because that's a luxury. And if it's a school in that district, then the child can go to public school. And I'm just trying to, talk about some different things because a lot of times people have different expectations. And it depends on also the community that you live in. In some communities, if there's a lot of tax money going and filtering into that community, then guess what? They're going to place quality teachers in those schools where a lot of the tax money is going, revenue. But if you live in a community that's impoverished or there's not a lot of tax money filtering through revenue, then they don't usually place quality teachers in those communities. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. So I can understand wanting your child to have the best education. But as a woman, if you're not married to that man, you have to also level up yourself to be able to contribute to that child's education in every way that you can, so that the child does get a great education. And some children can get great educations in a public school system if you stay involved, stay on top of your child's schoolwork, encourage them to read books outside of school, take them to the library, take them to the museum, expose them to educational things, to educational television, instead of on the social media and toxic things, but expose them to things that's going to encourage them to be hungry for, information, good information, share the Bible with them, talk about the Bible with them, read to them, something that's going to prick their minds and make them more curious about healthy, wholesome information. Sit down with them when you get a chance after work, after school, weekends, spend that quality time with them. And they can get a good education in a public school district and demand more from those teachers. Be involved in the city. Be involved with in your community, city councilmen. Hold them accountable. Vote. And find out what the track records are, these people that are running to be on these school boards. See what they're about. What type of track record are that they have? Were they consistent? How did they children fare? It's a lot of things that as parents can do in order to make sure that their children are successful, especially if your child doesn't have an opportunity to go to a private school because there's lack of income or the child's father doesn't want to pay, or you don't want to pay, or there's just no money to pay. Because again, it's a privilege. So listing that man's assets all in social media and on the public, so people can see it, so that maybe you can gain sympathy or whatever the case may be, or public opinion to make your case stronger or whatnot. However, that's what it is. When you list his assets, you're listing his assets. Those assets belong 9 times out of 10 to him. So guess what? It's good that a woman can level up and do better. Do better. I know I give my mom credit for leveling up, to do better. And so, and she was a single parent, so I'm not ashamed of that. But I'm just saying that we as women have to level up and be more responsible and accountable for the decisions that women make, so that it's not always on the man. And do I believe that child support laws should be changed? Absolutely. Because when a man is incarcerated for lack of child support, we don't know the whole reason behind why that man wasn't paying. And some people say it's because they didn't want to pay. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes it's because the man is in between jobs, lost a job, or there was a verbal agreement, and now the woman is angry. The child's mother is angry, so she puts him on child support. There's a lot of different reasons. But if a man goes to jail for lack of child support, guess what? They can't pay child support while they're incarcerated. So that just defeats the purpose. It's supposed to teach them a lesson, but you know what? It shouldn't be punitive, but it turns out to be punitive. Now they have a record on them, and now it's going to be even more difficult for that man to get a job, because now he has a record. It's a felony. And so now how can he get a job? And a lot of companies don't want someone that has been to jail and haven't paid for not paying a charge for not paying their child support. And then also some states will take your license. So if the man can't drive, if he lives in an area where there's a hard it's difficult to get public transportation, that's hard too. So you have to pick jobs that are going to be able to get you to the job and back, back and forth. So sometimes the man may have to rely on, family members to take him to the train station, like the Metrolink or the trolley or something like that. But however, it can become a struggle when a man has went to jail for lack of child support. And some women may be saying, and men, well, that's what they get. But the thing is about that is the child suffers. Because if there is no child support coming in, then guess what? The woman does not get that child support. And whether she's on social public assistance or not, that is money that's not being filtered to the right source, the child, because now the man is incarcerated. And again, a woman has to be accountable. And if you know that your assets, for the woman, I'm speaking now on a woman at this point, if you know your assets, women, are not that much to begin with, you have to plan better, which means self-preservation, taking care of yourself, making better choices. Don't get yourself caught up, if you can, in a situation where now you're pregnant, you're pregnant, and you knew that you weren't making that much money before you got with this man. And so now it's even going to be even more of a struggle. And now you're going to be relying more on this man, especially if it's a man with assets that has money and has money consistently coming in. And so you want him to pay your rent. But how was you managing before? How was you paying your rent before? You had to live somewhere unless you were homeless. So some women want men to pay the rent, pay the bills, even though the man doesn't live with them. So again, women, you have to be responsible in being able to take care of yourself and provide for yourself, because it's difficult to try to provide for a child if you're not providing for yourself. You have to know how to provide for yourself and level up. And if the man does have assets and he has money, then what about you leveling up? And everyone has a gift. God blesses everyone with a gift. So I think it's important that you can use your gift, and whatever your gift is, use your gift for whatever it is. And whatever your gift is, ask God to help you with that so you can level up on your journey to leveling up, so that you won't have to so much depend on that man. If it comes, the child support payment comes through or not, you have the means to take care of you and your child or your children. Because you have to think about, where were you at and what financial situation were you in prior to you getting involved with this man. And now you're, fighting and battling it out, and you're listing all of his assets on social media and in the public, because you now feel like he owes you something. But again, everybody's level of everybody's values are different. So if that man chooses to say, well, I don't value a private education, I'm not sure which man has said that. I'm just saying in general, some people don't value private education. So why would they be obligated to pay for the child's education when there's a public school system? And then some men do. If they do better, they can do better, they know better, they will do that. But however, what happens if they stop paying? Because again, there's a public school system that the child can go to unless it's court ordered. And then I just think that, women have to level up, protect yourself, respect yourself. It can be done. It won't always be easy. It's not always fun, struggling and striking out, and feeling like every step you move forward, you get pushed back 2-3 steps. It's not easy, but you can do it. And having your own, being able to level up, going back to school or using your gift, let me tell you something. That's a very good feeling when you can take care of yourself and be self-sufficient and it's a peace of mind. You're not fighting with this man over money, especially if he's a man that's not willing to do things. You have to go through the legal system and all that. But, again, being able to work it out verbally and respect one another as parents, being able to respect each other, because sometimes there's a lack of respect, a lack of communication, and pride and egos get in the way, and selfishness. A lot of it is selfishness because people are thinking they're entitled to stuff, these entitled attitudes, when in fact, as two consenting adults, responsible and mature, means that you can handle things in a mature manner instead of fighting at each other and battling. And just knowing, your self-worth, knowing who you are as a woman, and knowing your self-worth, that you can take care of you and you're going to make the right decisions. And then for men, protecting yourself and starting to understand and leveling up in a manner that you protect yourself, and, being upfront about what your intentions are with that woman, and sitting down with that woman and treating her with respect, both of you all, because if you were together in that type of capacity, bashing one another says a lot about your character, because it says, wait a minute, I'm bashing this man, but I laid down with him. So that says a lot about the woman's character. And if he's doing it, says a lot about his character. Remember, you chose that person. Consensual adults chose that person to lay down with, to procreate. And so now you have this child that's caught in the middle as the scapegoat. And they're caught in the middle because now you're battling over who's going to pay for what and what you're doing and what you're not doing financially or monetary. But again, being able to level up, to get yourself to the next level, should a man pay child support? A big yes. And if the woman doesn't have custody and the man does, should the woman pay child support? A big yes. But women, when you're willing, consenting adults, and men, when you're willing, consenting adults that participated, and I'm talking to both men and women, you should be just as accountable for your decisions and actions. And that goes for, people might say, who does she think she is doing this video? And, I think the man, he got money, he should pay. I don't believe that. I don't believe it like that. I believe that if the man has money, he should pay a reasonable amount of child support. And usually child support is established by the courts. And if a man wants to give extra and he wants to do more and he sees there is a need and he's up and the woman is upfront about it and they are in a collateral collaboration where they respect one another, they're not together no more, but they know that there's a child involved because it's all for the good of the child and what's best for the child. We have to take self out of it. Remove self. So ask God to help you remove self. And a lot of people, even though they say that, even though a lot of people may not be practicing Christianity or they may not be living accordingly, but none of us are perfect. We all fall short. But at the end of the day, most people, especially Black people, when there is a death or illness or sickness or whatever it is, they reach out and ask even the public. I've seen it, families, public, for prayer for their children. They'll post it on social media. They reach out, but they pray to the Father, to the God, the Holy Spirit. They pray. And now whatever you believe in, that's up to you. I'm no disrespect to whoever or whatever you believe in, but I believe in God. I believe in the Holy Spirit. I believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I believe in God's word. So all I'm saying is that we got to pray that God will help us level up on our journey. We have to pray that God will help us do the right thing. We have to pray that God will control our tongues, guard our hearts, help us to see things clearly, not to lean to our own understanding, but to God's understanding. Help us to not be selfish, to be patient. Help us to utilize the gifts that God has given us. And if we don't know our gifts, ask God to show us our gifts, whatever our purpose is. Ask God to show us, is our purpose aligned with his will, according to his will and his way. I believe that if you pray and you give it to God and you be the best mother you can be, the best father you could be, things will work out for the good and not for bad. But if there's selfish motives in it, and one parent thinks that the man should be paying for everything, including their nails and hair done, that's not going to work if that man feels that way. And in school too, private school. But the man might feel the same way. And withholding your children because you say he's not doing right or he's not paying child support, you're only using the child as a scapegoat and it hurts the child. And I had a praying mother. And my mother had a praying mother. And my mother had praying sisters, which were praying aunts for me and my siblings. And so I do believe that it can all be done. And we turned out just fine, my siblings and I. But I just believe that when men and women procreate and they're not even in a legal marriage, they're just living together or not even living together. They're just stopping in port to port, or they're seeing each other however they see each other. And the woman winds up pregnant. And now you have a baby that's going to be 9 to 10 months. And if they make it that long, sometimes babies come out prematurely and God bless their hearts. But, once that baby is born, now there has to be a leveling up that way too, to establish paternity, DNA. Men, you have to do better also. You can't be reckless and ratchet, and you have to be able to make better decisions yourselves when it comes to children that you're out here making with these women. Having a DNA test, establishing paternity, going to court, getting your joint custody if you can, and you can prove that you are a good father, and whether you have money or not, and then women, taking care of yourself, making good decisions, and being upfront. Who is the baby's father? Because sometimes you say it's this father, but you don't even know who the father really is. So just taking care of yourself, women, and holding yourselves accountable. Women accountability too. Just being accountable for yourselves and accountable for the situation and the choices that you made, and just taking better care of yourselves so that you can level up and nothing can prevent you, from getting to your goals. And on that journey, there's going to be some hiccups, some bumps in the road, and maybe even some potholes, but God will help you fill those potholes if you make the right decisions and do the right thing. And that goes for men. So leveling up men and women. And I pray that God will help you in your leveling up on your journey, that God will help you level up, that he will help you on this life journey together when you're raising children. God bless you all.